Hey, hello everyone. I am on live and now I am interviewing Chris Kendall. Uh, and while I'm waiting for him, I just want to share why I am here. So, just less than 24 hours ago, the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle has started, and I have contributed my very first ebook. Okay, let's see. Chris is asking to be a collaborator. Maybe, okay, let me add him. Okay, I am all new to this, so I had two live events this morning, Japan time. I have, oh, hey! Oh
Hey,
my,
Jacob, how you doing?
hey, Chris, I'm doing great. I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Excited to be here with you in day two of the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle Extravaganza. It's so fun.
Yeah, oh my God. I listened to some parts, some of your interview. You just finished Tineke, right?
Yes, yeah, it was lots of fun.
Yeah, and then Sachi, Sachi
Yeah,
is the reason I am part of this. I think I have shared with you, right? That she
yeah,
came out 2 years ago, over 2 years ago,
yeah.
and we had lots of fun. She's so sweet. She's so sweet.
Yes, that she is such a sweetheart. Absolutely. I've been blessed to know her for quite a long time and have met her in different places around the world, and it's always fun and heartfelt talking to her for sure.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, so anyway, the second day of the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle, it's my first ever
Yeah.
edition.
Stoked you're a part.
Cool, cool, cool.
Wow, you even got it printed out. The myths are printed. The first print that I've seen.
Respect for this person who wrote this. This is amazing.
Aw.
Well, no, first of all, this is an amazing subject. Thank you so much
Mhm.
for taking time and sharing this. This is such an important information to the world,
Mhm.
and this means a lot from coming from someone like you who has been on this raw vegan journey, right? So, uh, can you maybe share a bit about you, how long you have been for the audience who might not know you?
Yeah, of course. No, thank you so much. I appreciate that a ton, and I'm happy to feel or to hear that you feel so with that book. It, it's been a long time coming. I've been into health and nutrition since 1999, and that really woke me up to the power of fruits. But I got into like full-on raw food in 2004. So I'm celebrating my 21st raw food birthday. Uh, I was learning and learning, and it's kind of funny because when I first learned about all raw food, I was really reading a David Wolf book and some other stuff. And then I met Dr. Graham and I went raw overnight. And it's kind of wild because when I met Doug, he simplified things. And for people who don't know Dr. Doug Graham, he's the author of the 80-10-10 diet, which I would recommend probably as like the raw food Bible, for lack of a better term. But he simplified things so much and brought me so much clarity that I actually had some disdain for some of the earlier information and people promoting the raw food diet before that because I saw them as really more focusing on peddling products and not necessarily really good information and also sharing some misinformation that over the years I've seen more and more people have issues with. And that was just one, right? But over the years traveling because I've been very, very blessed to have been your chef, speaker, yoga teacher at many raw food festivals around the world. Like I think at least 20 over a 16-year period of, doing all that kind of stuff. And I've met so many raw food teachers and experts and enthusiasts and, people doing it from a few years to like 40 plus years. And you know, a lot of them coaches, and you know, I've been coaching for 16 years now. This is my full-time job for the last 16 years. And you know, corroborating and talking with other people, you know, things pop up, and you see things that don't really help people. You know, you see misinformation, and you know, while not everyone agrees with everything, when you really look at the largest amount of experience from different people and you look into the science of it, because you know, a lot of people just brush over the science part and just get excited about fruits and vegetables, which is great. I love it, you know. But if you really go into the science of it and you look to nature, and you apply some common sense from just what really makes sense in a seasonal kind of way, certain things crop up. And in my coaching practice, and again through all of that, I've just seen certain things really cause people harm and make this lifestyle a heck of a lot harder. And sometimes too, people just get into this and they're so just lightened up, and you know, they're really drawn in by philosophy and stuff like that, and you know, create like black and white kind of frameworks. And again, it just can cause so much harm. And so I've more so in the last couple of years been trying to focus on dispelling some myths. And you know, some of them I procrastinated on. I put out that video on mucoid plaque that took a long time and a lot of gusto to do, because I'll admit I don't love being controversial. I don't want to make anyone wrong, but at the same time I want to really try and make it easier for people to succeed and to thrive and to enjoy this lifestyle as much as possible. So I put myself out there, and this book is really kind of me not procrastinating, because these are all video topics I want to do and go more in depth, like individual topics for each chapter. But I figured, you know, this is a great way to put it all out there. The more places it's out there, the more people that see it, the better. And, you know, I'm just really happy to have it in the bundle, and blessed that you feel it's an important piece of literature for the movement as well.
That's amazing. I have so much to comment. It's just, you know, what it was just like so much information you gave out, and just, you know, yes, yes, yes. And, you know, I have such respect for you. And, you know, I am so grateful, and to be so honored to be part of this, the ultimate raw vegan bundle. And, you know, I am so forever grateful for Sachi, who has
Yeah.
me like 2 years ago, you should, you know, participate, you should participate. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I'm like not good enough. And you know, she has invited me, and yeah, and I'm so grateful. And it really, it's such a amazing community to be part of.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you know, when we started, right, like I also started raw vegan journey in back in 2004. But
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I was I didn't stick with 100%. Like I was high raw, and you know, I really I have been kind of hiding. I was you know, I didn't want it to bring myself to
Yeah.
this, you know, this scary world.
Hey,
Maybe
look at me, look at me, look what I, yeah, no, I understand, I understand. Sometimes I want to hide a little bit myself.
I'm so grateful that you keep on showing up,
Yeah.
and your sense of humor is fantastic. It makes me laugh
Wow.
every time. You know, I love it that you don't take yourself seriously. I mean, you know, you are one of the pioneers, and you have done so much to the community. And you know, last year there was something happened to me, and
Mhm.
I died actually, which yeah, so not gonna go into the detail, but I said, you know what? I mean, yeah, it's true. Like we feel like we can live forever, but we don't know what happens next day,
Yeah.
and we have
Yeah.
to, you know, yeah. And I said to myself that I have to bring myself to the world, because
Mhm.
this information, the raw information, is still well hidden.
Yeah.
I Many people here in Japan have never heard of it.
Yeah.
I have a raw vegan cafe in downtown Kyoto,
Oh
and
man, I hope to visit someday. I just got to say that I've always wanted to go to Japan, and I mean, this could sound really silly, but I mean, most of my tattoos are all Japanese tattoos and stuff. I've just had a real connection to it, but I've just always wanted to go to Japan. But yeah, sorry.
you are definitely most welcome here. And Sachi will be super excited to, you know, guide you through, I'm sure. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, so I really respect, and it's important to have to consult with someone who has been on this journey for a long period of time. I feel because in the beginning we feel so amazing eating,
Hmm.
and it becomes like kind of rosy.
Yeah,
uh, there at some point we have to adjust our adjust our diet, like.
yeah,
And someone like you who has been 16 years of consultation, and you have been an amazing chef and yoga instructor as well, that's an amazing person to go to and consult. And this, I know that this is a very tough topic to talk. I really
yeah.
enjoy your channel on mucoid plaque, and
No, thank you.
I could not think of any other, any better person to share that information, because you're coming from a pure love. You have seen so many clients coming up to you and completely kind of messed up their system, maybe because of their coach. The coach told them that this is the only way to go,
Yeah.
and so. Yeah, I'm thankful that you have put this amazing book together.
Oh,
Uh,
thank you.
it's so well written, so easy. It just gets to the point. Um, but anyway, we can talk forever. But the fat myth was something I want
Yes.
to focus on and ask you in details. Or yeah, one first question about fat myth.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I heard someone saying that you need to be careful on combining some like certain seeds, nuts, and avocado. Did you
Yeah.
know that? You
You
know,
know, for myself, because yeah, older information, and I think that's kind of an important point to kind of bring up too, is as you kind of mentioned, like when you first get into this, you feel so amazing, and almost no matter what you do, you feel amazing because it's very likely a lot cleaner, a lot simpler, a lot more nutrient rich than whatever you were doing before. And you can go through that honeymoon phase where you just feel just amazing and you feel like it solved every single problem and life is just miracles and rainbows and you can't believe it, but eventually life catches up with you, and if you're not doing it in a way that is really sustainable, you're going to get some ramifications from that. And of course also then sometimes like the lingering mindset stuff that you didn't deal with, or the social stuff or the emotional stuff, or all those things slowly come back and you start thinking and doubting and wondering, and that's again where a mentor or really good sound information can really help. And beyond that, with social media and, popularity around, being an influencer and stuff like that, a lot of really well-meaning people that maybe they're just in their honeymoon phase, or maybe they're in a couple of years into raw food and they're really excited about it, they share with enthusiasm and very good intention, but maybe they're sharing information that just isn't accurate, or maybe they're reading books from the 80s or 90s that has a lot of great information, but isn't necessarily spot on in terms of what we now know and what, 40 years or 50 years of experience of people applying these principles have found out. And that's really why I think it's just so important to not only look to the greats and the classics and the old books and gain as much as you can from it, but also come current with new information, not only from science, because some people don't trust science, but science, but as well as long-term experience, from coaches and people who have walked this. So I just wanted to start with that little quick prelude. But in terms of fats, that's one thing, and that's why I brought that up actually, is older information, and some people promoting it still now, say like only mix one fat at a time, and for the most part, that's really due more to calories rather than digestive function. A lot of the food combining tools, I used to look at them as rules, but a lot of the food combining tools, they really were more about calories, and it was actually a tool originally used for weight loss. It had nothing to do with digestion, food combining. It was really a tool for weight loss. But people found that, hey, yeah, if you eat simpler, if you mix foods that have a better digestive chemistry, you get more optimal digestion. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like a complete devastation. That's what I used to think. I remember reading food combining books in the late 90s. That was like some of the first stuff I read. And I took it on so seriously that I felt like I was losing. I was bad, and I was like gonna like almost die if I didn't food combine properly. Like I remember actually being so strict to food combining when I saw other people not food combining, and really mostly with fruit. Like when people were just eating chimichangas and McDonald's, I didn't think too much. I was just like, oh. But if they're mixing like a banana and orange smoothie, I'd be like, oh, and like I would get a stomach ache because my mind thought it was so wrong. Over time I experimented, I tried things out, I researched more outside of the scope of just raw food hygiene, and looked at digestion in depth. And again, I think food combining is amazing. I actually really apply food combining to the utmost, but I just see it as a tool for optimal digestion. And falling short of it, maybe you'll get a burp, maybe you'll get a little toot, but that's usually the worst of it, unless you really go far, and if you're eating when you're stressed out. But all this to say, yeah, when we're talking about mixing fats, for the most part, it's just, it is helpful to limit to one or two fats. And the fruit fats, like avocados and durian, they're, because they have the water content and stuff, you can eat a lot more of them with less calories. So I don't personally see any issue with combining fats, as long as it's not like going completely overboard all the time. What you do once in a while, no big deal. But some people may have, specific digestive issues, and if somebody tries mixing, say, walnuts and avocado, and they find that they have an issue because maybe they made some raw taco meat and some guacamole, and they want to make like a burrito, right? If they notice they have an issue, well, yeah, set it aside. It's like, hey doc, my elbow hurts when I do this. Well, we'll stop doing that, right? Give your body a chance to heal up and get stronger. But I find for most people, as long as the fat content is generally kind of low, we'll say below 20%, and they're accompanying it with fresh vegetables and stuff like that, to some degree observing food combining, but not necessarily like, oh my God, I must be in this box. It digests really fine.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's amazing. I feel, yeah, I'm somewhat similar to what you have mentioned. I just want to read out Sachi's message, sending huge love to both of you. Thank you. And Pop
Yeah.
said raw is low, fruit is true. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this the ultimate vegan bundle is, my God, for Japanese it's very there's too many tough pronunciation. The
How would you say it in Japanese, by the way? I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, okay, so in Japanese we don't have L, no,
Yeah.
so there's ultimate L,
Yeah. Yeah.
raw, vegan. We don't have B either. Bundle.
No.
There's L also. So in Japanese, it will say ultimate vegan bundle.
I love it. I think Japanese is one of my favorite languages, like how it sounds. It's just the best. I love it.
That's so funny. Oh my God. Yeah. So um, this collaboration is amazing because, first of all, someone like you who has been in this raw vegan journey for such a long period of time and consulting
Yeah.
and finally coming up with something like this is so, so important. This is something that, I feel like these are Bible for someone, even long-term raw vegan, or
Mhm.
if they are new to this journey, it's fantastic. I wish I had all this information, you know,
Yeah.
this whole this bundle is
Mhm.
amazing information, and I love it that it's low fat raw vegan
Mhm.
because I don't. Yeah, I mean for long term raw vegan, like processed oil, like even extra virgin oil, like I cannot, I don't include that in my diet.
Yeah.
Too much nuts would cause me some itchiness, and
Mhm.
it's beautiful because not only we learn from amazing books from for this bundle. But
Mhm.
through these interviews, you get to hear everyone's, what we are going through because everyone's
Yeah,
unique, right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone brings their own story, and it's through the hardships that we learn, and everyone has, different realities in their life. So
Mhm.
everyone's learning different tips and tricks and insights and, coming together. I just love these lives too, because it is like a raw food festival, but an online festival, and it's all free. It's like it's just such a fun way to connect with everyone, grow the community. And really that's why Lissa and I came together to create the bundle, just to grow the community and share really good information out there because, you know, like you're talking about, like, you've been into this for a long time, but you weren't really out there, right? And there's a lot of people like that. And when we come together like this, it sparks people to share this information because just like you said, it's so important, especially today with so much misinformation, not just, in the raw food world, but you just go out to the grocery store and it's like keto this and paleo that and like lean meat and blah 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 and like all these things, right? And it's life-saving information, not only for ourselves, but for the animals and for the planet. I don't think there's a more profound choice we could make than to change what we put on our plate or what we just put in our hands and put right in our face, right? So uh, I can only imagine you're in the same spot. Imagine in 2004, if you could have had a bundle like this for $50. Like back then there was maybe a handful of books you could find at a bookstore and they'd be 10 to $30 each. So you maybe get like a couple paper books with some outdated information for some of them, and instead now you get like 32 resources that can completely revolutionize your life, from recipes and meal plan, or okay, maybe not meal plan, sorry, but recipes to guidebooks and information based books. There's a lot more information and mini courses in this one than some previous ones too, and of course all brand new, so it's definitely a blessing, and I'm so stoked that you decided to take part and that Sachi gave you that little poke, hopefully to many more. Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. I haven't gone through all of it, but I was just so impressed with the content. It's amazing information, like not just a recipe, but some
Mhm.
stories. I love learning each one's journey. Why do they continue and they're still passionate about this lifestyle? And yeah, it's. I feel like this is a complete guideline, and this is like only $50 for like over 30 books. Uh,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's. I think I do honestly feel this is the one of the best investment that they would make
Mhm.
in their lifetime. So I am really grateful for you and Lisa, especially. You
Yeah.
have been working so hard. I mean, I, I,
My brain's a little melted. I'll let you know. And I'll briefly say too, it's kind of wild. I haven't shared this on any lives yet, but I had actually been working on a mini course for months for the bundle, and I had a whole different project planned that I've been thinking about for a really long period of time. But unfortunately, there was a piece of technology that was required to really tie it together and to make it work that I was promised would be done in time. And I was, it was pushed back and pushed back. And then it got to a point where we were at the beginning of April, like April 5th. I was like, will this be done? Because if not, I can't finish my project. And my tech was like, nope, it can't. Sorry. And so I actually had to completely restart. And so this book was just like I hustled from really from about April 7th until just like a couple days before the bundle to create this entire book. And luckily, it had been kind of in the back burner of my thoughts because, like I said, every single chapter is a myth that I've been well acquainted with for years and years, and I've thought about making videos for, and a couple I had a little bit of a schematic for making a video about. But of course, when you're writing into a book, you want it to be even more well, like in depth and a little bit more information. So this is actually technically my first book that isn't a recipe book or primarily a recipe book. And I couldn't be more happy with it. And I'm just happy that I actually managed to get it done before, which, knowing that, the month before the bundle was really busy behind the scenes, but I was also going crazy to finish this book. So again, my mind's a little bit melted, but I'm so happy that I made it.
Your mind is going working sharp. I mean, I listen to your interviews and your talk. Oh, your mind is always sharp, and I'm very impressed every time. But amazing! Oh my God! Just few weeks to finish this book.
It was I made it in about really I made it in about 2 weeks. Yeah. And but you know the funny thing is most of my books, like when I started my website, for example, because I'd been a raw foodist for 4.5 years, a couple falls off the wagon, a serious relationship that fell apart, in part because of division between the raw food diet and her not wanting to be a raw foodist, really. And I started my website and wrote 2 books within, it was like within a weekend. Actually, one weekend, I wrote my first 2 books and started my website, and then I haven't stopped since then. Like I just everything poured out, you know. So when you're ready, like that's the kind of way I think about it sometimes. Is I don't procrastinate, I percolate, and during that percolation time, like the information is just being sorted and configured, and I'm learning new things and bringing them on, and I'm thinking about it. So then when I'm ready, it's just like, and it comes out, you know.
Yeah, my book was actually similar. My book I
Yeah.
in about a month. And yeah, I really I'm so grateful because he kept saying, okay, it's a tight deadline for you because I mean there are people who has been doing it, working on it for a year or even more for
Yeah.
the book. And I was so determined. Like every day, I was like, you know,
Yeah.
and I was my husband was so impressed. Like, I was just yeah. I think it worked really well. And just like you, it was all the information I accumulated, and I have been wanting to release it. So yeah. Anyway, it's not about me. I just wanted to get
No,
back.
but I do want to say kudos to you, and I'm so glad you showed up, not just for the bundle, but putting yourself out there because you have a wealth of experience, and your book goes into that and into your journey, and it's a beautiful book. And you know, welcome world. You know, like we're blessed to have you here sharing this information because, like I said, it's just so important. And I love to hear too that you know that you're spreading it with Sachi out in Japan because she has also told me that it's not really on the forefront of thought at all, you know, out there. So it's the world needs this, you know, and it's just it takes us living it and breathing it and showing up and sharing it with others. And you know, not everyone has to by any means do that. You know, just being you and being out there eating raw foods and going to the grocery store and buying lots of stuff is so powerful, you know, and having those conversations and taking it lightheartedly, you know, and not taking ourselves too seriously or understanding when people have questions or maybe make fun of us. It's more about them, it's not about us. And the more we can take that less seriously and brush it off, the more it's going to stick to them and plant those seeds. If we get combative and tell them they're wrong and they're murderers, they're probably just going to put walls up. But you know, if you share from the heart and share like, yeah, you know, this is just what I do. It just feels amazing, and I love it. You know, like it makes all the difference.
Yeah,
So
this.
just kudos to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And you guys, you both, Lisa and you both had it. You got it. That this collaboration is so powerful because I
Mm,
started my raw vegan blog in Japan, and I think I was the first one to start in 2005. And
okay.
yeah, I started writing it in Japanese.
Yeah.
Someone asked me to do it, and I don't, I prefer to go outside, hike, do other things. And I was thinking, like, there's someone else who can do it. But because there was no one doing it, I started my Japanese blog.
Yeah.
And then, like 2 years later, there are some people started to pop up on raw vegan stuff. So I said, okay, well, there's someone else doing it. So I just, removed myself because I didn't enjoy it, And honestly, even now, I push myself to
Mhm.
to do this, and I
Mhm.
I do this because I truly believe this is a very important information that I wish
Yeah.
a lot sooner. I wish
Yeah.
I knew that there's a community that I could connect to, right?
Yeah.
So I know how important it is. That's why I push myself every day. There are so many other
Mhm.
things I can do it easily. You
Yeah.
know, so
Yeah.
all these technical issues, and I'm really grateful for your generosity and kindness. Like I was like, yeah, with this bundle, there are so many things that I didn't understand, and you and Lisa are just, oh my God, it's just always so kind, and I was always feeling bad that you guys are busy finishing your book and taking
Oh,
care of others.
it's an honor and pleasure. Like I know both Lissa and I have been helped so much by the generosity of others, and again, this lifestyle, it lifts you up in so many ways that we just want to see other people succeed. And again, that's one of the reasons why we started this bundle too, is like we see so many people out there, doing the raw food thing, but procrastinating, and they have so much information and uniqueness to share. And both Liz and I, we've been through it. We've gone deep into the dredges of the tech world and figured stuff out. Lissa even more than me in a lot of ways with social media and stuff like that. And so we really want to make this easier for everyone. And I mean, as you experience the bundle, it's not only for the people that are receiving it and spreading this message, but it's for all the creators to, fine tune how to create things and how to make a living out of doing this. Because, if you can make a living out of doing this, you can pour a lot more time, energy, and love into it, right? And that's just a beautiful thing. So we're definitely both very blessed and very, it's our pleasure for sure to help and to share and to make this easier for you and everyone else.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you so much. And Raw Chef Yin has joined, and
Oh,
hey,
hey, yeah. She's got an awesome book in the bundle, or course rather, in the bundle too. The Chinese takeout. I'm super excited to try some of those.
yeah, me
Hey,
too.
Ian, actually, do you have any recommendations? If I was going to try one recipe during the bundle, which one, Ian? You let us know.
Haha, yeah, that's exciting. Yeah, I can't wait to try her recipe. Some of them are so super easy to make. So looking.
Mhm.
So I'm getting back to again. See this printed out usually, right? But I really wanted to again respect for this book. I love how you print it out. It's very easy to read, which is excellent. I appreciate you paying attention to the text, and
Mhm.
it was just two weeks of work. Uh, General
Sid, General Sal. Sal.
fortune cookies. I saw that Lisa made it amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, next level. But yeah, so um, we talk about the fat myth. Is there any
Mhm.
other myth that you wanted to touch base from the book, or there's a message that you wanted to share after completing?
Yeah, for sure. Well, specifically on the fat myth, because I think that's a really big one that is misunderstood by a lot of people. And there's a lot of different myths in there that I really hope help a lot of people. But the fat one is a common one, and a lot of people just feel like, as long as it's raw, it doesn't matter, and in the big concept of things, yeah, sure, maybe it doesn't matter, but if robust health, if athleticism, if feeling your absolute best is a priority, well, then that myth may really touch home, and so I've met a lot of people who say, just to stay raw, they'll eat a whole jar of nut butter. And again, what you do once in a while, it's not going to make or break your diet. But if you're under eating calories and you're driven to eating tons of fat at the end of the day, and you're eating, 5 avocados and a jar of nut butter, or stuff like that. Well, it's not the best for your insulin function. It's not the best for your cellular oxygenation. It makes your blood thicker and slower. It's not as good for a whole host of reasons. And myself and other long-term coaches have seen people just fall off and bite the dust, and unfortunately even develop things like heart disease and atherosclerosis from eating high-fat raw food diets. People wouldn't believe it, but you can if you're really overdoing fat, and especially if you're overdoing fat and sugar all the time, because it's just hard on the blood vessels. It's hard on the insulin function. um, but the most common reason people have issues with the raw food diet is not eating enough fruit, not eating enough calories from simple carbohydrates. And if they're not getting enough calories from carbohydrate, they're just going to be driven to fat. They're going to eat way too much fat. And so I go into that in the book a little bit. And Dr. Doug Graham in the 80-10-10 diet, he goes even deeper into that specific part of why high fat versus low fat. But in that chapter, another thing that I really go into is some people think, well, if low fat is good, then no fat must be even better. So I won't eat any fat whatsoever. And, you know, I won't go into all of it, but one thing that is important to note is if you are eating mostly tropical fruits, yeah, you can do it because tropical fruits are higher in fats than say temperate fruits. Like if you're just eating apples and say actually, well, they're not temperate dates, which are really low fat. But if you're mostly eating temperate fruits, you're getting less fat than if you're eating mangoes and papayas and durians and mamays and other tropical fruits. But even still, adding a modest amount of, nuts and seeds and paying attention to the omega ratios, which I get even more into in the book as well, is really important for long-term health, for, even things like skin health and mental cognition and sharpness and longevity and, long chain fatty acid conversion factors and all this stuff. So it is a big topic. I mean, each of those myths, I think there's at least 5 or 6 pages, and I actually kind of impressed myself with how long each chapter ended up getting. But yeah, there's a lot of myths around fat, and it's, we're not looking to get too much, we're not looking to get too little, we're looking to find that sweet spot. And, the simplest way to look at that for most people, it's beautiful our anatomy and how everything matches up, perfectly. But for most people, that's like generally speaking, two closed handfuls of nuts or seeds, or around a medium or small avocado, depending on your size and your activity level. If you're really active and you require more calories, which I get more into in a couple other myths too, you can actually get away with eating a little bit more fat because your body is just burning a little bit more efficiently, you're improving your insulin function, and you're demanding more calories. And
Mm,
that's where fat can be really useful because not only does it provide an easy way to get a little more calories in a smaller volume, because some people have, especially in the beginning, a hard time getting enough calories in and conceptually understanding how much volume it takes to eat all this food.
mm,
Um, but it also provides dense nutrients and some nutrients that are a little lower in some fruits and even some vegetables. So uh, that's just some of the big ones with the fat myth. But you know, there are so many other ones in the book for sure too. Like cooked food being poison and just myths that have been coming out since the 80s and 90s and some even earlier than that. And you know. Just seeing things in a black and white way and just making it a lot more strict and hard on yourself, or believing that fruit is the only freely given food, so we should just eat fruit, and we're the most intelligent primates, so we don't need any leaves and stuff like that. And again, each one of these myths, it comes not only with experience but with science behind it, and a track record of what I've seen people and what other coaches I've talked to. Like, I feel so blessed to sit and be good friends with Dr. Graham and soak up tons of information from him. And I mean, he's been consulting people for 40 years. He's like, it's wild, right? So I just feel so blessed to bring some of these myths to light, and hopefully people, even if they're butting their heads against them and thinking, no, this isn't right, to at least give it a try, to read it with an empty cup, as they say, because if your cup's already full and you're not accepting new information, you might just say, nope, I'm going to keep doing this. And sorry to say, but that may lead to hardship, and if you can bypass that hardship by learning from others' experience, beforehand, it's just beautiful.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, what you mentioned about omega-3 and 6 ratio earlier, that's very, very important. I have been on the high raw vegan, but I, well, there were times that I had to go to cooked food because I felt like raw vegan lifestyle didn't work, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
Actually, looking back, it was omega-3 and 6 ratio, which you talk about in your
yeah,
book. And also, I also mentioned in my book as well, because that's a huge area. You
yeah.
need attention. I think once you're used to it, it's no brainer. You just kind of
Yeah.
add, you know, chia seeds or what is that, flax seeds and hemp seeds. But you
Mhm.
need to train yourself in the beginning because it might not be
Mhm.
the common food out in the
Mhm.
world. But yeah, this is amazing book. Again, the paper. I think reading that really helps to understand the base of what's going on in
Yeah.
Robbie's world. And with that information, you can experience yourself and
Yeah.
start to notice a few things, right? Because sometimes there's a fine line of being disciplined, like you were saying, like the books about eating, the um, the orders of how you eat. Like you should start from light fruit, watermelon, melon, and you never mix.
Yeah.
And later you kind of get a hand. You understand how it works. So
Hmm.
there's a balance also at the same time, not to be too strict. Uh,
Yeah.
you were saying like bad food combination might be a bit of burp, but okay,
Yeah.
as long as you don't do it all the time in a big quantity, maybe it's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, but it's super interesting and important for someone like you. Thankfully, you came up with raw truth exposition, exposing the top 10 myth. That's there's gold in this book. I can't wait to go into more into detail, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to print it out. I usually don't like to print out in paper because I
Yeah.
don't I don't like any waste. You know,
Yeah.
if I can read it from my phone or computer, I prefer to do that. But with this
Yeah.
time, it's just too much coming to our handphone, and I get lost.
Yeah.
I usually don't finish my book if I read it from my computer or yeah. So
I I
yeah.
hear you too. I have a lot of ebooks, and I prefer to read them or paper books. If it's a recipe book, then I prefer the ebook actually. But if it's a like informational book, I like to do the same to print it or have a print copy. I may even get it made into print copy sometime. I think that could be a fun one to make into a print copy. Because I
Mm.
have five paper books on my website, and blessed to be 100% recycled paper too, which is kind of fun.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Yeah. So this was definitely well worth printing it out for me. And I have, because I run a raw vegan cafe, and there are some Japanese people who, you know, might not understand English, but for
Yeah.
those of them who buys it, we can go into we can share and deep dive in some of the section, which is because this is a gold information that I.
Oh, well, if you ever want to translate it, 50% revenue for every book you sell.
It's not bad because it's not, yeah, it's doable. I have to do mine first though. Mine, and I haven't had time to. I kept on editing myself until the very last minute. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it might not be. Yeah, it might be a great idea. This is much needed information in Japan as well. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's spending
Such
time.
a pleasure. Such a pleasure. I just wanted to mention too, when we were mentioning about the omega threes and sixes and stuff like that, like you said, like a lot of people don't really know this information, and even a lot of people I know who have been in the raw food lifestyle for a long time, they hadn't heard this, or they discount how important this information is. But more and more, it's things like this that are going to become more clear because you see the ramifications of long-term avoidance of this ratio. And people might think that this sounds really mathematical and you got to really think and stuff like that, but you really don't, because the beautiful thing is fruits and vegetables, like which is the basis of the diet, they're naturally in a good omega-3 to 6 ratio. Like they're almost perfect. So when the bulk of your diet or all your diet is fruits and vegetables, you're magically already in those ratios. It's just with the added fat, which we've already kind of talked about, is better kept at a smaller amount generally anyways, like a handful or two per day on average. But a lot of people don't realize, like when you're talking about the flax, the chia, the hemp, and even walnuts too, those are great ratios. Flax and chia has more omega-3 than omega-6. Hemp has a little bit more omega-6 than omega-3, but it's a good ratio. We're roughly looking for a 1 to 1 to 1 to 4 ratio, omega-3 to 6. But a lot of people actually don't realize that certain nuts, they're so high in omega-6s that it just blows you off track, even if you have small amounts. And I don't want to demonize any fats whatsoever. I'm not putting those fats on the bad list or naughty list that you shouldn't have. But if they're your staples that you're eating all the time, again, it can really bump up inflammation, make it harder for your nerve function and your synapses, and long term can result in less long chain omega-3 fatty acids. They're really important for long term brain health, connected with Alzheimer's and other brain related issues. And just as an example, like I see a lot of people having, say, almond milk as a staple, and eating almonds a whole bunch. And again, I'm not making them bad, but almonds on some charts, I've seen them range from 1,000 to 1 omega-6 to 3 to 4,000 to 1 omega-6 to 3. So like having that as a staple, it'll be impossible to be in that ratio, and it's not really setting yourself up the best way for long-term success. Whereas instead, if you make hemp, chia, and flax and walnuts your main fat sources, they're not necessarily the only ones, but your main ones, and keep them in relatively smaller amounts, then you're going to be perfect in that ratio. And again, it helps in so many ways, and people notice it. Like you can notice it when you make a switch. At least I really can, and I love hemp. It's my absolute favorite go-to. And when you're talking about mixing fats, I actually usually use hemp as like my base. So I might use like a third a cup, like 2 or 3 tablespoons, and then add a teaspoon or two of chia or flax to it when I'm making a sauce. And then that's my easiest way to get them in. I just blend them right into my salad dressing or my curry sauce, and boom, I got them all covered. Adds a little bit of creaminess, extra nutrient density, and also a little bit of extra calories just to make it more satiating and easier.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned about this. I watched one Japanese lady. So raw vegan movement here is mostly on like green smoothies, but like mostly
Yeah.
on dessert. So
Oh,
raw
yes.
is quite popular. Well,
Yeah.
popular more like health people who are like health enthusiasts.
Yeah.
And I remember watching this lady who used to teach raw vegan course, and it's always the dessert using tons and tons of cashew nuts.
Yeah.
And cashew nuts is amazing. I mean, it tastes amazing. It's
It
so
tastes.
creamy. Uh,
Yeah.
First of all, cashew nut is not raw to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the omega 3/6 ratio is quite far from ideal. So if yeah, it just why it's okay. But if you have it as a regular food,
Yeah.
it could cause, and that happened to me. So this lady on YouTube, she said that why I stopped being a raw vegan chef, and
Yeah.
she and oh, we were doing this dessert, and it was amazing. It felt amazing in the beginning, and then a few of us just started to feel itchy around our stomach,
Yeah.
and we couldn't continue. And
Yeah.
I went through that, and
Yeah.
I was lost at that time. It's like
Yeah.
cashew nuts must be good for us, right? At that time, I believe like cashew nuts was raw also.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I am so glad that even almonds, which is everyone thinks that it's the one of the healthiest food.
Healthiest ever.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you
No,
depend on almond milk, like you said, it's sorry.
it's not ideal. And I mean, like we both said, these can be a great part of a healthy raw food diet. You just don't want them to be staples. And I've seen the same thing very sadly, and that's one of the reasons why I'm a huge champion of the low fat raw food diet. Not only because I just love fruit, but because that's what the science shows and that's what experience shows. And I've seen multiple people. In fact, it kind of similar to what you said there. I remember when I was living in LA at a time, like over a decade ago. There was a raw food restaurant, and it was all high fat gourmet, and that's how most restaurants are. And it shut down, and the chef, went away from raw food because it wasn't working, long term. Like he got super gaunt and giant dark circles under the eyes, and just didn't look healthy. And I've actually met more than a few raw food promoters that are promoting more on the high fat kind of side of raw food, just have major issues, like major health issues. And, things can be, health isn't all about diet. So I don't know if there's other lifestyle things behind that, but I've definitely seen a clear similarity between people that are trying to do more high fat, that it's way harder to maintain, way harder to have a nice, healthy, body fat ratio, not necessarily just for, looks, but just for feeling really good and for longevity and health. And for the absolute most part, like there are very, very few examples of people that are actually living 100% raw, high fat, raw food diet that are fit, energetic, look healthy. The vast, vast majority of the time when people apply a high fat, raw food diet and try and do it for a long period of time, they end up adding back cooked foods. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying if you want to learn how to live a healthy, long-term raw food diet, why not take the approach that you see success after success after success, that nature shows is what is within our genetic disposition, what the seasons show. It's kind of funny, right? Because it's like fats are seasonal. They're typically fruit, fall kind of foods. Like when the availability starts to go down, the weather gets a little bit colder, the fat ramps up to get extra calories to put on a little bit to stay warmer during the winter. Make it a little bit easier. But there would be no time in history that we would have just been stocking up on nuts. Like you don't see animals out there, like I guess you see squirrels, but you don't see the primates just stocking up on nuts nonstop and making sure they have nut pies all the time. Whereas otherwise fruit, is available seasonally year round. And
Mm.
it's kind of funny when you mentioned the fatty kind of desserts and stuff. And I mean, those can be really great, and they do draw people in, and it opens people's eyes. Like, wow, I can still have cheesecake, and it's healthier. And I think that's really awesome. But it's just a kind of side funny story that when I first got into this, the first book I read in '99 was Fit for Life, and one of the key concepts that it mentioned was ditch desserts and eat fruit first. So it said like no desserts, just instead have fruit first as your dessert. And people often ask me for dessert recipes, and I mean, honestly, technically, I consider most of my fruit recipes to be desserts, but they're not the desserts most people are looking for because they're looking for the high fat kind of gourmet stuff. And I've never been drawn to it. Like I just have never been drawn to it. I feel really blessed that in '99, low fat, fruit based, ditching desserts and oils and all that stuff was really like my bread and butter, as they say, or my bananas and dates. And so it's never really appealed to me. But so many people are drawn to it. And if you're going to have those foods, like it's better to treat them as a meal, and just eat them maybe with a salad even, but just treat it as a meal. And otherwise embrace all the amazing low-fat raw food recipes that are in this bundle. There's many, many desserts and they're low fat, and that just treats you so much better. I remember going to raw food restaurants when I was 7.5 or 8 years raw before I ever went to a raw food restaurant. And then I was like, oh my God, like, it was high fat and it had salt and it had oil. And I actually felt naughty. I felt like I was doing a really bad thing. But then at the same time, I just wanted more. I'm like, I want 19 of those tacos. And then I had a nut coma and I had to like almost fall asleep because I was just like, oh my God. Like, and I had like stuff coming out of my eyes and my face puffed up. And it's like, you know, again, I think that they're amazing foods to introduce to people, but it's not a sustainable lifestyle to have that as the mainstay. Those are like, once in a while kind of treats and stuff like that. But there are so many other ways to make, stuff lower fat and just easier for our physiology and digestion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I know that we have been going on quite a long time, but I want to say that thank you again for putting all your effort. I remember you mentioned and you mentioned that this myth is very important to share because we want to take it seriously to the world, right? Because sometimes we talk nonsense. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't say that. Not nonsense, but like sometimes you're so excited that we don't respect the scientific matter and say
Yeah.
no nonsense, and then we are not taken seriously. And my husband he's quite he's got this scientific mindset, and yeah, sometimes it's kind of embarrassing, some of the interviews that I'll be listening to. So I, I'm I am so grateful that you have, with your accumulated knowledge from Dr. Graham, Doug Graham. Also, you have taken class from Dr. Rick and Karen's, right? That's an
Which is so, so good. Yeah, their Mastering Raw Food Nutrition course, absolutely amazing. I can't recommend it enough. It's like a college level 1 year raw food course that isn't just like raw food is law and low fat, you must be at every meal, like it brings the science in there. They're a part of the bundle as well with their What I Eat in a Day mini course that is not just what I eat in a day. It's like the science and the nutritional factors and so much behind it. So I apologize to interrupt, but yeah, they're amazing. I've learned a lot from them and many other raw food leaders out there too. It's a blessing to be in this community. It really is.
Yeah, fantastic, amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. I hope I didn't remove some of your time. I know that you have a packed schedule, and
No, I got an hour and a half before my next, so I'm chilling, and then I'm actually that's my last live for today. So I'll be trying to transfer these over to my website and stuff like that. And I actually wanted to ask, is it okay for me to share this on my social media, maybe even on my YouTube, this
that,
interview?
oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that as well later for my side.
Of course. Yeah, please do. The more this information spreads, the better.
Excellent. This has been amazing, Chris. Again, thank you so much for showing up. You are a pure gold, and this book alone is worth getting the bundle. I think everyone knows Chris already, but if you do not know Chris, go follow him.
That's
He's
me.
amazing information. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's me.
Cool.
This burnt faced guy over here in Sweden. That's me.
That's right. The silly guy who's got
Hmm.
great humor. Thank you
Hmm.
so much. Amazing book, amazing talk as always. And yeah, I would love to connect with you again when maybe when we are reconnecting again. You are interviewing me. Your host,
Yes, excited for that too.
yeah. And
Yes.
once it's done, I would like to interview you on my YouTube.
Sounds good to me. Thank you again so much. I'm so stoked that you're a part and that you're showing up as well. Big kudos to you in that. It's a brave and beautiful thing to do. The world needs us all, right? So it's a blessing and pleasure to talk with you today. Thanks for the fun questions and also for your patience when I meander about topics and interweave them into a little bit too much sometimes.
That was amazing information. Thank you so much for sharing all of that.
Absolute pleasure. And may I ask you to make sure to add me as a collaborator? I totally want this on my page as well.
News. Oh, the collaborator. I
Yeah,
if I get stuck, be patient with me. I will
no
work.
worries.
If you don't see it, poke me again.
Yeah, no
So,
worries, no worries at all. Okay. Thank you so much, Kiko.
thank you, Chris. Bye now.
Hey, everyone.
Bye bye.